Hello, everybody. Welcome to Debugging Drupal with Devel and Xdebug and all sorts of other fun stuff. I work for a company called Calanuna. We're based out of Oakland, California. I actually live here in Florida, down in Port Charlotte, and so I make the trek up here. We make, like it says, we make the internet for mission-driven organizations. We tinker, critique, and change the way things are. We're design and strategy, support, user development, or user experience and development, and all that fun stuff. My name is John Willett. I am the Director of Support, and my primary job is I do jank the jankiness in your janky websites. I've seen a lot of crap-tastic websites in my journeys in many years, and the reason why I give this talk is how I'm able to get through all that. A little bit about myself. First professional website I built was in 1995. I actually grew up around computers. I was very fortunate. My father had a consulting shop that specialized in AS400s. So I was in the Air Force at the time, and some guy called me and asked if I do one of these worldwide web pages, offered me $5,000. I was in E3 making $14,000 a year. I was like, I'm in the wrong field. 22 years later, here I am. I've been using PHP for a while. CMS has started happening after that, Mongo, which became Joomla, WordPress. Drupal came on the scene, it seems, a while ago. And about the last 5 years, I've been really just primarily heavily in Drupal. And I have several modules, and I'm an active contributor and all that fun stuff. I'm a little rough around the edges. I've been known to swear during sessions, and I just throw it out there in case it offends you. We can hug it out afterwards. I am very steadfast in my positions, and like I said, either way we can hug it out or fight to the death in the kumite. I'm amenable to either one, but I do love you. All right, so these slides I'm going to show you are basically how to set up things and stuff. I will be doing a quick demo after of all the stuff and things I showed you. So here we go. Here's some general debugging tips. Basically, I use Chrome. I'm a Chrome person. Hitting F12 or right-clicking and doing inspect is a daily practice for myself. And from there, you can see all the things and stuff that your website is spitting out as far as HTML code. And you can put in, you can use the JavaScripting side to put in some breakpoints and check out the things and stuff we're going with that. If you ever get a white screen of death, really quick and simple, just throw this in your index.php, and boom, you can usually see what's going on, at least where the error is generated, and that works for any version of Drupal. What I tell a lot of my people, too, is to Google your errors. This is pretty much the easiest way to do a lot of stuff when you encounter an error. Like that was an error I got a few years ago when I made these slides. And the best way to do it, too, is don't, if you copy and paste the whole error, it'll have, the path to where, your module is. Right. Don't do that. Just, grab, try to be as vague as possible, and you'd be surprised. You usually get thrown right into, either a Stack Overflow or DO post, and you can go and add a patch or fix the things and stuff. Like I said, I just mentioned, the Drupal API is a great place, too, or just RTFM, and if you know what that means, that's awesome. Read the friggin' manual. All right. So Drupal 7 is still around, despite popular belief. There's still about 1 million sites on Drupal 7. And as of this morning, I checked it just to double make sure. So I will still support Drupal 7 sites probably for the next 5 years, and I imagine a lot of people will. So here we go. All right, theme debugging. Now, this is a very common thing, and it came out about 7.3 something to where you could start debugging the theme, and basically you can do it one of two ways. I prefer the Drush way, but you can also throw this key into your settings, and basically when you go to inspect, you'll see a whole bunch of fancy green markup as to where the template is being pre-processed from, template suggestions. It's very handy. If you inherit a site, you'd be like, where the hell is this template coming from? Because I'm changing one and nothing's changing. Then that's how you usually figure out where it is.
I have a question. That's Drupal, is Drupal version
this is
7.3 something?
Yeah.
4? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 7.33 or something like that. It came out, and you're good. And there's also a link that kind of gives a summation of what I just said. When I do UI-based type of debugging, Devel is a go-to for just about every human. And in D7, there was also a cool module called Search Chromo. And if you ever used it, it's legit. And I'll show it to you a little bit later on. But these two, Devel and Search Chromo, I mean, I primarily use Xdebug when I'm debugging stuff, but if I want to do something really quick, this is what I use. So the problem with Devel, though, as you can see, there's like 42 billion different things you could use to debug it, and some of these aren't even Devel. I just threw them up there, but it's just real genius, great movie. But which ones do I actually need? Yeah, exactly. So that's a good question. DPM. That's all you need to use when you're debugging. That's it. Out of the 82,000 different Devel commands, DPM is pretty much the only one you'll ever need to use. I have tried them all, and they're great and fancy, but for the quick and dirty stuff, DPM. But if you don't believe me, here is a list of all the Devel functions, and you can try them out. Sometimes like debug backtrace, but if you're using an IDE, it comes with that, and fun things and stuff like that. All right, now we're going to get into D8 stuff. I'm flying through this. So, all right. One of the first things when we started doing D8 sites, I actually was building side sites before my company started doing D8 sites, was that the caching is great, but it's horrible to do stuff locally, especially with breakpoints with Xdebug, because it just won't work, and you're like, ah. So I'll show you the setup later, but this guide that I put up top, I would recommend it, and it's basically setting up your local development services and your local settings and fun stuff like that. I'm not really going to go over Drupal console in this session, but there is a Drupal console command where if you basically run that, you can put your site into development mode, and the other variable on that is prod. You can throw it back into production, and it turns all the caching on and stuff like that. The Devel module still exists. The one drawback, it now uses Kint, which is, in my opinion, horrible. It implodes your system, and we'll go over it in a minute. But and there's also Web Profiler, which is a Symfony-based solution, and you'll be able to pinpoint a lot of things and stuff. And I'll show you that a little bit later. Basically, just throw a Kint in your code and watch your computer die. And basically, this is what happens. You'll see they'll start to overheat, and you'll see it when I show you that, especially if you're in a pre-process, you just put Kint vars, it'll be like, no, and it'll just take forever.
Or you press the plus button by accident.
Yep, the plus button. Yep, exactly. So there is another module called var dumper. It's a little bit less of a load on your resources. It's still you'll still hear your computer be like, hey, what's up? But it's not as egregious. And the printout is actually very pretty, and I'll show you. And but again, DPM. They have a whole bunch of stuff where you can use it as a service. You can throw it into Watchdog, which is sometimes useful if you're doing batch stuff or stuff that you need to check during runtime. But primarily, DPM is all you really need for var dumper if you decide to use that. All right, Web Profiler is pretty cool. I just started using it not that long ago because basically I was building this internal custom solution, which I can't show you guys, but I was trying to figure out a route or something, and I couldn't figure it out. It was a custom view that outputted the things and stuff, and I was having a really hard time, so I had to redirect to it after the batch finished. I'm like, what the hell? Why is this so difficult? Well, I got that, and in the bottom toolbar, it tells you the root of every page you're on, and I'll show you too, and it's very helpful. Because as you know, in D8, the path is not actually what's going on anymore. The route, and it can be named something totally different than the path. And that's just really awesome. So, and also too, if you're using Web Profiler, it comes with, you can add a couple of additional libraries, and it's mostly for the tooling, like how to highlight things. And the D3, even though I can't really ever get it to work right, it's supposed to be for if you're doing a time-based, if you see what's loading on your page and how long it's taking, and I'll show you the tab, but it won't. I can never get it to work like the example. I don't know why, but I put it there. If you get it to work, that's fantabulous. And also, if you're using Web Profiler, throw these two lines of code into your local settings, because it basically hooks everything up and makes it all magical. All right. Now, Twig debugging, as everybody knows, we have a completely different front-end platform to make all this stuff fancy. So the problem is, though, since we're not using a PHP framework anymore, you can't use Xdebug for it. It won't stop. It'll just go right through it, and you can put all sorts of things and stuff and just laugh at you and keep going on its way. But in order to debug, you have to tell it to debug, because by default, D8 wants to cache everything and be performant and all that fun stuff. So if you did what I said earlier, and enable like your D8 caching stuff, you don't need to do this step, but in case you just want to have a hard time and not listen to me, then go ahead and do that so you get your Twig debugging. And one way you can do also is Twig comes with something called dump, and you can just dump the bars and it'll print out to your screen and fun stuff like that. But again, it's easier to use Xdebug, and I'll show you why. And then once you get Xdebug, it's a little weird though, because when you actually put the breakpoint in, it doesn't stop at the breakpoint, it stops at a position in the class. So you have to go back to the thing, and then you're able to see the variables. All right. Some other things too. Watchdog is a great way to like again, if you're doing anything that you want to catch what's going on during runtime, and you don't really want to stop, or you want to grab a bunch of like results that are happening, say in a batch. It's easier to use Watchdog and just like print them to the Watchdog, stop the batch, go check things out, and that way you can see that everything is running okay. If you don't want to install any modules and you just want to be a rebel, then cool, you can use Watchdog, and you can do like this applies here as well, where you can do like a fancy array message, and it will it'll look pretty, and you can actually see the arrays and things like that. All right. Now my favorite is Xdebug, because it doesn't matter what system you're using. Platform agnostic. I do WordPress stuff too. I use it with WordPress. It used to not work on PHP 7, but now it does. And it's once you get it set up, it's extremely easy to use, and it'll open your world to like a whole bunch of more fancier ways to do things and stuff. I still use Sublime. There's other things out there like Atom and PHP Storm. I'm thinking about checking out PHP Storm. I've seen stuff on it, but I've been using Sublime for like 5 years now, and old habits die hard. So, and in my examples, I'll be using Sublime. It's pretty easy to set up if you're doing stuff locally. This is pretty much the steps. And I'll have all these slides available. So, then add that to your PHP INI. Using D8, throw those bad boys in there, or just use Calabox too. Everything comes pre-installed. Xdebug, Redis, Solar, everything you need is right there, and it works on all OSs now. And some people like to use Drupal VM. I do use it sometimes. A little harder to set up. We actually had to fork it and do all these weird things, and you need to understand how YAML files work, and it's Vagrant based, so it's slow as hell, even with Ansible. So once you start using Docker stuff, it's so much funner. And then if you're using Sublime, grab this. It works with Sublime 2 or 3, and it's basically how Sublime hooks into Xdebug. And then you need to create a project, and basically the way I do it is I name a site by like the project name or whatever the repo's name is, .project. And here is a sample config for a Calabox type of dealio. And where the word sample is where obviously your repo goes. And all these different options are just the default, just use them. You can change them. Like if you're having memory issues, you can change the max children to 32 and the max step to 4, and it's just how deep it goes in the arrays that it shows you, and all that good stuff. Here's a config for Drupal VM. It's a little bit different since you're using Vagrant, but it's similar. And there's no IDE key because you can specify that in Drupal VM. Basically, when I'm using Xdebug, I basically use the same variable name. The reason why I do this is because sometimes I forget to remove them. So when you're about to release something, or you put it into your code review workflows, if you have them, I hope you do, to where I search it for t=1, because I'll forget them, and you don't want a bunch of t=1s or DPMs or other things like left in your code. Everyone will laugh at you. Sometimes too, when you're doing stuff, if you add a line or delete a line and you have your breakpoint already set, the breakpoint will move like around on you. So anytime you're about to start to debug, remove all breakpoints, reset your debug or your breakpoints, and then debug. And then with what I do with Sublime, you need to throw this query string on the end of your URLs one time. Sometimes you have to set it again if it forgets who you are. But then, you'll come to find when you're using this is on like every URL you're using, so you usually just search for one real quick, grab it, and throw it on the project you're working on. Some really simple stuff. This is how you start it. Control-Shift-9, or if you're on a Mac, Command-Shift-9. Stop it, Control-Shift-10, Command-Shift-10, you all can read. Step into, step out. These are basically the 4 things you'll ever use in Xdebug. You can do some other stuff, and that's up to you. I mean, back in the day when I was like a Power Builder and Visual Basic programmer, that's all I ever did was like basically those type of 4 commands, and most people do as well. All right, we're going to start doing these things and stuff. All right, so that's actually all the presentation. So, all right, we're going to start with the D8 stuff. Actually, no, we're not. We are going to go to the D7 one first. Oops. Typing is awesome. So, I'm going to set the theme debug so you can see that. So this is a Panoply-based demo site that I spun up the other day for this demo. And basically with the theme debug, you'll see this stuff up here. Here's all your theme, like your suggestions. This is telling you this is when it says call theme page, that means use like preprocessed page. This is the theme it's using. Here's your page TPL, and if you override the suggestions, it'll have something there. Like if you put it in your own theme, if you use the naming conventions that Drupal tells you to, it will all be there. So it's great when you're trying, especially when you inherit a site and someone will build like half the theme in a profile and half the theme and cites all themes, and you're like, what is going on? You'll be able to pinpoint where it is. It will save you a lot of time. And as you can see here, like this one points to the master theme, Cala theme on the site. So that's the theme debug. I'm going to show you some. I'm already on. All right, so this is DPM, which I have Devel and Search Chromo installed. So once I run this, here is on DPM, and here's like everything that's in that var is variable. From the page, var is that page. And the cool thing about Search Chromo, when you're using it, you can grab it, and it gives you the actual syntax of what you need. So, so when you come back here, you just change the var to whatever var you're using, and there you go. There's the variable you need to do all this. And it's very simple, and you can go super duper deep with it. Like if I came in here and just like grab something more. Now, nothing. There's not a very. Okay, I get it. So like here, like that. So now you have like, if you wanted to change the theme ref for some ungodly reason, you could now do it easily within your pre-process. And that's it. I mean, that's the theme debugging for that. Now, if we look, I will show you Xdebug on here. Another two, when you're using Xdebug, you have to be in the project. If you just like open a file in your Sublime and be like, I want to debug it, it won't work. It won't stop at the breakpoint because it's not set up, and it'll just laugh at you, and you'll be sad. Control Z forever. So all right, so I set my in here, right click, add remove breakpoints, Control Shift 9. Should stop. And there we go. All right. So when you come in here, you're going to see a couple of things. You're going to see the backtrace stack over here on the right. This is where the breakpoint is. So if you ever like go to debug something that doesn't stop where you wanted to, it's because you left a debug point somewhere. You can see right here and be like, oops, I'm dumb, and unset it and try again. You can set watch variables here. I didn't cover that, but you like if you wanted to ping the system while it's running stuff, you can do it there, but you hardly ever. Now the cool thing about Xdebug, where like Devel and other things fail, is you see all the global variables from cookies to the environment to post and get stuff, and sometimes you need that, or even session variables if you're doing some heavy duty stuff. And here they all are. So this is the query string, and here's all your session variables if you ever need to tweak those. But the main important ones is the actual thing, the variable that we're checking for, and that's this, the vars here. Now PHP Storm does a little bit better job in displaying the information down here. But for Sublime, it just puts it as like a text file, which is great, because I usually do, I come over here, put a file new, and paste it all. So then like, I'll just let the Xdebugger run. So if I was looking for something like, where does like the word logout happen? Well, right here, I know that like, if I wanted to change logout on the title, I could take this, and we'll try it, and it should, in theory, change it. By my luck, it probably won't. I come here. Refresh. And I log out through this stuff. So, you could do stuff like that. And it's a quick and easy way to grab the wonderful multi-dimensional arrays that Drupal prints out and go ahead and change them all. All right, so that's D7. We'll still be using it for a while. Let's go do the D8 stuff real quick. So here, here's the setup that I create my own settings local, and basically we're pointing to the development.services, which Drupal 8 comes with, but you just change it. And this is all on the page that it references. I'm carrying off JS and CSS add. I don't whatever that extension does, it just says put it. And then if you look at the page, it gives you a gog command that will go in and find all your cache tables. And so you just basically run that, grab that string, put it in an array. And the cool thing about 5.5 Drupal and above, you don't have to actually write the word array anymore, just like most languages. And you go ahead and just throw that so it cycles through and disables all the cache bins. And then this part is for the web profile at the bottom. And don't put this in your Git repository, save it off to the side. You can put your database connection strings in here if security is a concern. Yeah, it has nothing to do with Xdebug, that's just me ranting. And here's the development.services. And this is, you basically copy from this page and throw it in here. And it's basically putting on the debug and turning off the caching and pointing to the backend factory. So, I already have everything installed, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to do the var dumper first, and you can kind of see what's up. And for fun reasons, they changed all like the drush clear commands in Drupal 8 to drush CR instead of like CC whatever, which is nice and easy, but I always, since I switch back and forth, sometimes I forget to do the right one, and it laughs at you. All right, so this is a var dumper. I actually had it set it a little bit like, when I first did this with just the vars last night, my computer just like went into overdrive because it was trying to print this whole thing. And you can see it's still spinning because it's trying to print this giant, massive array onto the screen, which is really easy to read. And, but here you can kind of see, basically what this is very similar to the D7 one that was all like scrunched up with like Devel and Search Chromo. This is it printed out gloriously for your approval. There. So you can hear my computer is like laughing now. It's beep. So if we go ahead and do Kint. Kint does have its advantages. I am hard on it, but it's a hot mess. And yes.
Do you think the problem is with Kint, or is that Drupal just has like a shload of stuff that it's trying to put into
It's
Kint?
load. I mean,
Okay.
it's trying to. I mean, Drupal has the multi-dimensional arrays. I don't think Kint was ideally designed to handle like things like
Okay.
that. So,
Like if you wanted to use it like a Laravel project or something.
or
that might
Symphony. Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
you could
okay.
definitely use it. But here, sometimes, like she had mentioned, when you accidentally hit plus, and this is a giant array of sadness, it will stop your computer. You'll just and cease to exist. So be careful with Kint. There are some benefits too if you're debugging classes and things like that. There'll be another tab up here to where you can see like the public properties of the class and everything that the methods and the properties of the class. This doesn't have it. I don't know why, and I don't care. But you can grab it to be like, what is the magic getter for this, or what is the magic property for this, class and things like that. It does come in handy. Play around with it. I'm not going to. All right. So the next thing I'm going to show you, which is kind of cool, is the web profiler part. Refresh this. All right. There we go. Okay, so it came back. So what? Oh, you can't. Oh, so there's all these stuff at the bottom, which is kind of hard to see. But in my demo, there's a place where you can change all the configurations, and I believe it was on here. Let's check. Yeah. So you can come here and change whatever you want to see in this toolbar. Sometimes if you're having issues, change this to file storage if it doesn't show up or if it comps out on you. But down here, there's some cool stuff like here. Right here's the route name. So if you ever need to grab that to do whatever you need to, like change the route or alter the route or send things to this page, this is handy dandy. Some other stuff which is great for performance. You can come here when you click on anything in this toolbar. What it'll do is it'll bring you to a completely different dashboard, and this is where the libraries I was talking about come in handy to highlight, and the D3 that I can never get to work, which is right here. It's supposed to show a fancy graph, but it doesn't. I don't know why. But basically, this is the time it took for that page to load. There's all sorts of different metrics here. Like if you're ever curious, like what database calls, all 42 billion of them on the page, you can go through each one if you like that kind of thing. Views, I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, just play around with it. There's no reason for me to go over every single thing, but here's all where, like if you need to invalidate cache, you can kind of see where like things are hitting the cache and fun stuff like that. And then finally, I will show you Twig Debug. So basically, come over here, and I'm going to add a breakpoint to. This is the page twig, and we're just going to throw it up here. So what's going to happen is you throw the breakpoint in, you start the debugger, refresh it, hopefully, and then it's going to stop. Sometimes it takes a hot second. And of course it didn't stop. So that's great. Let me see something cool. Shit. Stop. No. All hell is breaking loose. Now this is watching me mess up, so that's good. Actually, the last time I gave this presentation was at BagCamp 2 years ago, and like nothing worked. Like my Calabox didn't work, I lost internet connection. Like it was great. I was like all hot and sweaty and swearing every other word. It was awesome.
It was pretty awesome.
welcome to Drupal development. Alright, so it is on. Let me see why. It's right there. Put it in the main page. Please work. Yeah, it doesn't feel like working today, so I'm sorry I can't show it to you. But basically what will happen is it'll come over here and it stops like somewhere down on this thing, and you'll have everything fill up over here, and then you just switch back over and there'll be a variable called context, and that's where the context of all your twig things and stuff are, and you can see basically what's going on. I don't know why it's not working. And finally, I'll just show you Xdebug on here, which you already saw. And it's, Xdebug on Drupal 8 is a little bit fancier because you'll see all the classes and fun stuff like that, so it's a little bit different. Or you know what, I think it's because this page isn't being called. Alright, so like here, same thing as before. You can kind of come up here and grab this. You'll see this is your typical Drupal fun bar. Like here, you can see like before you were able to edit pretty much anything in an array, and now with Drupal 8, as you know, everything is object-oriented classes that have protection, and you can't like directly edit an array, so you need to create a new class of that, and then edit the property and pass it back in. And this basically, what's great about it is it'll tell you like which class it belongs to. So go check out that class, and then you'll be able to do stuff in there. I think the other thing didn't work because I changed from a page to a node, and if I probably put a debug in the node, that twig, it would probably work, but whatever. You get the gist. So that's about it. A lot quicker than I thought it was going to be, but any questions?
Can you talk a little about how to install Debug?
Yeah. I mean, normally, if you install a thing that gives you like Drupal VM or Calabox, it works automatically. And you're going to save yourself a lot of headache doing that. With Calabox, it works right out of the box. Drupal VM, you have to change some stuff in the YAML files. But if you want to do it locally, I have the slides up there. Basically, you install the package, the Xdebug package for PHP, and then you go into your PHP INI, and I have the settings on one of the slides for both, and then you throw that at the bottom of your PHP INI. If you're using Drupal 8, there's a couple more settings you throw in there. And then that's it. And then the rest is you install like the Sublime, the package, or whatever IDE you're using that can connect to Xdebug, and then use whatever key to like start it, and that's it. It's not that hard to do, but I mean, again, just use something that comes with it. You'll save yourself some headache. Any other questions?
I have a question about Twig Debug, which outputs the template name suggestions and your view source for HTML comments. When I have that enabled, it also adds HTML comments to my RSS feeds, like based on the XML templates.
Yep.
And usually it stops some other process from happening, so I have to go and turn debug off and on all the time. Is there any way to prevent the HTML comments from showing up on the pages?
Yeah. No. I mean, you would have to. I mean, you would just have to turn. In cases like that, and I've had that happen. Like when we did an RSS feed, it kept showing up, and it messed up like the whole feed, and you get invalidated XML. And the best thing is just use. You can use either one of two things. Use the settings.php variable, like in a conditional statement, to only say if this is locally, do it, and then if you're on production, don't use it. But if you're trying to test things locally, then just turn it off. That's why I like using the Drush one, because I can just go in, do it real quick, and you just go back and forth, 1 and 0, 1 and 0. It takes you 2 seconds, and you're good.
So don't use Twig Debug in production.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Piro?
So for the twig for debugging with using Xdebug and Twig, what sort of packages would I need to install to like make that happen? Are those like composer packages or?
Yeah, if you go, there's a Drupal module. It was on one of my slides.
Okay.
There's an Xdebug Twig module, and you have to install it with Composer. A lot of Drupal 8 modules since 8.2 you need to install it with Composer. Composer is your best friend now if you're doing Drupal 8 development. It's actually really groovy. But yeah, install it, and then you enable the module, and away you go. And maybe it'll work for you. It didn't for me.
So I was looking for the slides online, and I found, how do you use browser-based developer tools? Are you talking about like just the Chrome view your cell phone to debug the smartphone, or can you actually debug on a smartphone?
Oh, for debugging on a smartphone, I use Browser Stack. You can't really. I've never tried, but you know the go-to for us is just to go to Browser Stack, and it'll emulate a Mac, like if you're doing an iPhone or whatever, or an Android, and you can pull up the console on there for whatever, like Safari or Chrome. Every browser has a version of this, and then you can kind of debug it, and that's the best way to do it, in my opinion. But I mean, I didn't really show Chrome here, but if you come here and inspect, like here's your elements. This is a console where everything will be sad. I don't know why it's sad there, but you'll see JavaScript errors there. 404s. If you're doing HTTPS, it'll tell you like this is invalid. You know, here's all the sources that are being called on this page. If you're doing performance stuff, these things are groovy, network and time, and you can kind of see what assets are loading. Here's where if you want to see cookies, this is where you usually go, like down here. Here's all the cookies on the page, etc., etc.
And then also, is there a way to kind of set a breakpoint at an unknown, kind of when an element changes? So I guess I'm not really sure about like how the PHP affects and directly interacts, but let's say a class is added to during rendering. Is there a way to set a breakpoint upon the event happening?
I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you know where the code, if something's happening like dynamically, try to put it before and then step through the code. That's like if you're not sure. One part I didn't really show is where you can do like F7 and F8, and it can be very egregious. Like you're like, oh my God, I'm 82 files deep, like watching this thing go. But I mean, that would be your best bet in that
So
situation.
just like dumping the variables like throughout the process.
Well, you would just step through each line of code as it's running to kind of see what's going on. I mean, it's not the greatest solution, but that's what I would do.
I think you can like set conditional breakpoints, but it's like sort of tricky to do.
Yeah.
I haven't done it in a while, but I know that like.
But there is an option to do that. I've
Yeah.
never done it. I would just
Yeah.
step through it.
What about if you're doing Drupal 7 views? How do you really troubleshoot those?
Like, in what context?
Well, in the context of using contextual filters,
Mhm.
not showing the results you're expecting. I guess that's what it is.
It would depend on the scenario. I mean, most everything in Drupal is either one of two things, PHP or MySQL. So I would use some sort of API alter to see where what's coming from. Throw a quick breakpoint, even if there's no code in it, and see where that was going. That's what I would do in that type of situation. Or query alter, things like that. I mean, everything, at least especially with views and contextual filters, you can figure out with PHP. It's just going through all the different hooks that Use APIs provide and try and finding like which one is not working properly, and then fix it within that hook. That's my best guess on that one. Any other questions?
On the breakpoint, like set a condition.
All right, go team. Thank you.